My fiancée demanded I pay for her sister's lavish wedding. I refused, and her family imploded. I, 32, male, have been with my fiancée, Sarah, 30, female, for 5 years, engaged for 1. We have a comfortable life. I work as a software engineer, and she's a marketing manager. We both earn good salaries, but I've always been more financially conservative, while Sarah tends to be a bit more impulsive, especially when it comes to family. This difference has been a minor point of contention, but nothing we couldn't usually work through. Or so I thought. The real drama started with her younger sister, Emily, 26, female. Emily is, to put it mildly, high maintenance. She's always been the princess of the family, coddled by their parents and used to getting her way. She works part-time at a boutique, but most of her lifestyle is funded by her parents and, increasingly, by whoever she's dating. She recently got engaged to Mark, 28, male, who comes from a moderately wealthy family, but not old money wealthy. They have a decent income, but not enough to fund the kind of wedding Emily envisioned. And Emily, oh boy, Emily envisioned a wedding that would make royal weddings look like backyard barbecues. From the moment of the engagement, Emily started planning. She wanted a destination wedding in Italy, at a villa overlooking Lake Como. She wanted a custom-designed dress, a renowned chef, an open bar with top-shelf liquor, live entertainment, and a guest list that rivaled a small town's population. The estimated cost quickly ballooned to over $250,000. Mark's parents, while generous, put their foot down at $75,000, stating that was their absolute maximum contribution. Sarah's parents, bless their hearts, are not wealthy. They offered $20,000, which was a huge stretch for them. That left a deficit of over $150,000. This is where I entered the picture, unknowingly, as the unwilling ATM. Sarah approached me one evening, looking incredibly stressed. She started by talking about how much Emily deserved a dream wedding, how she'd always dreamed of a fairytale day, and how important family was. I listened patiently, sensing where this was going. Finally, she dropped the bomb. My parents and Mark's parents have given all they can. Emily is devastated. She asked if we could help cover the rest. She was hoping we could contribute the remaining $150,000. I was floored. $150,000? For someone else's wedding? And not just help out, but cover the entire remaining balance of an obscenely expensive event that wasn't even ours? I looked at her, trying to keep my voice even. Sarah, are you serious? $150,000? That's more than half of our down payment savings for a house. That's a significant portion of my entire savings. We've been planning to buy a house next year. Sarah immediately became defensive. It's family, David. Emily is my sister. She's always wanted this. You make good money. You can afford it. It's not like we are struggling. We are not struggling, Sarah, because I'm responsible with our finances. $150,000 isn't pocket change. It's years of saving. And for a wedding that isn't even ours, for a lavish event that Emily and Mark can't afford themselves, this isn't just helping out. This is essentially paying for their entire fantasy wedding. She started to cry. You don't understand. Emily will be heartbroken. It'll ruin her wedding. She'll never forgive me if I can't convince you. She said she'll have to drastically cut back, maybe even move the wedding to a local venue, and she'll be so embarrassed. The emotional manipulation was thick, and it was coming from both Emily and Sarah, through Sarah. I tried to explain that I loved her, and I love her family, but my financial responsibility extended to our future, to our goals, like buying a home, saving for retirement, and eventually, if we chose, having children. I wasn't an endless money pit for her sister's extravagant desires. Sarah, we need to be realistic. If Emily and Mark want a $250,000 wedding, they need to be able to pay for it themselves, or significantly scale back their plans. It's not our responsibility to subsidize their lifestyle choices. This led to our first major fight about it. Sarah accused me of being selfish, uncaring, and unsupportive of her family. I accused her of being financially irresponsible and letting her sister manipulate her. We went to bed angry, the request hanging heavy in the air. The next day, the pressure escalated. Sarah's mother, Brenda, called me. Brenda is usually a sweet woman, but when it comes to her daughters, especially Emily, she transforms into a fierce protector. She started by buttering me up, talking about how wonderful I was, how lucky Sarah was to have me. Then, she transitioned seamlessly. David, we are so worried about Emily. This wedding means everything to her. You know how sensitive she is. And you are so good with money, such a smart young man. I know you and Sarah have savings. Would you consider helping out with the wedding? Just a loan, if you like. She'll pay you back, eventually. The eventually was delivered with a tone that suggested never. I reiterated my position, politely but firmly. I explained our financial goals, our plans for a house, and how this sum would completely derail them. I also gently suggested that Emily might need to adjust her expectations to her budget. Brenda became noticeably colder. I see, she said, her voice tight. So, you're not willing to help family. That's very telling, David. The conversation ended on a sour note. Then came Emily herself. She called Sarah, and I could hear bits and pieces of the conversation. Emily was sobbing, dramatically saying things like, I can't believe David is doing this, and he's ruining my dreams. And Sarah, how can you let him? Sarah, in turn, was practically in tears, trying to appease her sister and then, inevitably, turning back to me, trying to guilt-trip me further. Emily said she's going to have to cancel the venue. She's going to have to get a cheaper dress. It's going to be a disaster, David. She's so upset. I finally lost my temper a little. Sarah, this is ridiculous. Emily is an adult. She needs to understand that you can't have champagne taste on a beer budget. We are not responsible for funding her lavish lifestyle. This isn't about love or family. It's about financial entitlement. And frankly, your inability to stand up to her is becoming a real problem. This led to another huge fight. Sarah accused me of being cruel, of not caring about her family's feelings. I told her that she was enabling Emily's irresponsible behavior and that I couldn't believe she was prioritizing her sister's extravagant wedding over our shared future. We spent the next few days in a frosty silence, barely speaking, Emily, being Emily, then started subtly spreading rumors within the family that I was being difficult and selfish. I started receiving passive-aggressive texts from Sarah's aunts and cousins, hinting that I should be more generous, that family sticks together. It felt like I was being slowly isolated by Sarah's entire family for refusing to open my wallet. Things came to a head when Sarah's father, Robert, a man I genuinely respect, called me for a man-to-man talk. I thought, perhaps, he would be the voice of reason. He started by saying he understood my position, and that Emily could be a lot. I felt a glimmer of hope. But then he pivoted. Look, David, I know it's a lot of money, but Emily is our youngest. This is her big day. We just want her to be happy. Sarah is really stressed about this. You know, happy wife, happy life. If you could just help them out, it would mean the world to Sarah, and it would really smooth things over. I was deeply disappointed. Even he was essentially asking me to sacrifice our financial security for Emily's vanity project. I explained my position one last time, clearly and concisely, outlining our savings, our goals, and the principle that I wouldn't subsidize someone else's irresponsibility. Robert listened, but I could tell he wasn't really hearing me. He ended the call by saying, "Well, I hope you reconsider. This is causing a lot of tension." That night, Sarah came home, fuming. My dad called me. He said you basically told him to mind his own business. He said you were completely unyielding. He's really upset with you, David. Sarah, I told him exactly what I told you. I explained our financial situation and our priorities. I didn't insult him. But you refused to help. You're making me look bad. My whole family thinks you're a stingy jerk who doesn't care about me or my sister. And what do you think, Sarah? Do you think I'm a stingy jerk for wanting to save for our house, for our future, instead of blowing $150,000 on a wedding that Emily and Mark can't afford? She looked at me, her eyes blazing. Yes, I do. You are being selfish. This is important to me. This is important to my family. If you loved me, you would do this for me. That sentence hit me hard. If I loved you, I would do this for you. It felt like an ultimatum, a test of my love measured in dollars. Sarah, my love for you isn't determined by how much money I'm willing to spend on your sister's wedding. It's determined by my commitment to our future, to our well-being, to building a life together. And that means being financially responsible. If you truly believe that my refusal to bankrupt us for Emily's wedding means I don't love you, then perhaps we have bigger problems. The argument escalated into a full-blown crisis. Sarah packed a small bag and went to stay at her parents' house, saying she needed time to think and that she couldn't be with someone who didn't understand the importance of family. I was devastated. I loved Sarah deeply, but I felt like I was being cornered, forced to choose between our financial future and her family's unreasonable demands. I stood my ground. I decided that if Sarah couldn't see the logic, if she truly believed I was being selfish, then our fundamental values were misaligned. A week passed, and Sarah and I barely communicated, only through curt texts about practical matters. Her family continued to apply pressure, though less directly now. Emily started posting tearful updates on social media about having to scale back her dream wedding, with thinly veiled allusions to unexpected financial challenges and unsupportive people. It was clearly aimed at me. Then, something unexpected happened. Mark's parents, who had initially offered $75,000, found out about Emily's attempts to get Sarah and me to pay the remaining $150,000. They were apparently appalled by the sheer audacity of the request and Emily's subsequent attempts to shame me. They called Emily and Mark and basically told them that if they couldn't be reasonable and financially responsible, they would retract their offer entirely. They stated that they would contribute a maximum of $25,000 to a wedding that was within a reasonable budget, and that Emily needed to grow up. This sent Emily into a full-blown meltdown. She apparently called her parents, screaming and crying, accusing Mark's parents of being classless and destroying her life. This, in turn, infuriated Mark's parents further. They were done. They told Emily and Mark that they would now only contribute $10,000 for a simple, modest ceremony, and that was it. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Emily, seeing her dream wedding crumble around her, turned on Sarah's parents. She accused them of not loving her enough to make David pay, and of not being rich enough to give her what she deserved. She screamed at her mother, Brenda, calling her a failure for not being able to provide her with a lavish wedding. Brenda, who had always doted on Emily, was utterly shocked and heartbroken. She called me, crying hysterically, telling me how Emily had verbally abused her, how ungrateful she was. She apologized for pressuring me, saying she never realized how truly entitled Emily had become. She admitted that she and Robert had enabled Emily for too long and that this was a harsh but necessary wake-up call. Robert called me later that day, sounding utterly defeated. He told me that Emily had not only lashed out at Brenda but had also accused him of being a bad father for not having more money. He said he finally saw what I had been trying to tell them, that Emily's sense of entitlement was out of control. He said he was truly sorry for having pushed me. Meanwhile, Sarah was caught in the middle. Emily was furious with her for not convincing me to pay, and now Emily was furious with her parents too. Sarah's family was imploding. Emily had gone nuclear, refusing to speak to anyone who wasn't immediately sympathetic to her plight. She even threatened to cancel the wedding altogether if she couldn't have her perfect day. Mark, completely overwhelmed by the drama and Emily's behavior, was apparently having second thoughts about the entire marriage. His parents had made it clear they would not tolerate Emily's antics. Sarah eventually came back home, looking pale and exhausted. She didn't say anything for a while, just sat on the couch, staring blankly ahead. Finally, she turned to me, her eyes red-rimmed. "You were right, David," she whispered. "You were right about everything. Emily, she's just... I don't even know who she is anymore. My parents are devastated. Mark is thinking of breaking off the engagement. My family is falling apart." She started to cry again. "I'm so sorry, David. I was so caught up in trying to make Emily happy, in trying to keep the peace, that I didn't see how she was manipulating all of us. I didn't see how she was using me to get to you. I let her make me doubt you. I let her make me think you were selfish, when all you were doing was protecting our future. I am so sorry." I held her as she cried. It was a huge relief to hear her admit it, to see her finally understand. We talked for hours that night. She confessed how much pressure she had been under, how Emily had expertly played on her guilt and loyalty, and how she had genuinely believed that by securing the money from me, she would be solving everything. She also admitted that my refusal had caused her to reevaluate Emily's behavior and her parents' enabling. The implosion of her family had been painful for her, but it had also forced a harsh dose of reality. Emily ended up having a much smaller, local wedding, with a significantly reduced guest list and a far more modest budget, almost entirely funded by a loan from a bank that she and Mark had to secure themselves. as Mark's parents ended up only contributing a token amount for a rehearsal dinner and Sarah's parents contributed what they could for a small part of the catering. The dream Italian villa wedding was a distant, bitter memory for Emily. Emily is still simmering with resentment, especially towards me, but also towards her parents and Mark's parents. She rarely speaks to anyone except to complain about her ruined wedding. Mark is clearly unhappy and stressed, and their marriage seems to be on shaky ground even before it properly began. Sarah is trying to mend fences with her parents, who are still reeling from Emily's outburst. It's a long road for them. As for Sarah and me, we are still together. The experience was incredibly difficult, a real test of our relationship, but ultimately, it brought us closer. Sarah now has a much clearer understanding of financial responsibility and, more importantly, a newfound resolve to stand up to Emily's entitlement. She's learned that enabling bad behavior hurts everyone in the long run. We are still saving for our house, and we are back on track. It was a costly lesson, not in money, but in family dynamics and boundaries, and I'm just glad we navigated it without completely derailing our own future. I still can't believe her sister asked for that amount of money and her family backed her up. It was truly an unbelievable experience to go through.